The concept of reincarnation often brings to mind souls traversing centuries and vast distances, reappearing in entirely new lineages. However, some of the most striking cases suggest that a soul might choose to return within the same family, with memories of a past life resurfacing in the closest generations, even directly in the next. The extraordinary and deeply personal story of Gus Taylor from the United States is precisely one such case. From his earliest memories, he seemed to recall being his paternal grandfather, also named Gus Taylor. This unique case offers a profound glimpse into the mysteries of consciousness and familial bonds, drawing the attention of leading researchers in the field, particularly Dr. Jim Tucker from the University of Virginia, who meticulously investigated it. Young Gus Taylor was born in the United States, presumably around 1995, years after his paternal grandfather, Augustus Gus Taylor, passed away in 1993 at the age of 74. Although the exact birthplace is not precisely specified, it is believed he was born in one of the Midwestern U.S. states where his family resided. When he was merely 1.5 to 2 years old, as his vocabulary was just beginning to develop, Gus started exhibiting behaviors and making statements that particularly surprised his mother, Jan Taylor. With unusual clarity for a toddler, he frequently spoke of his previous life. These memories often emerged during play or daily routines, appearing as individual flashes or brief, specific narratives, which Gus seemed to experience vividly. One of his earliest and most striking comments was made while pointing to a photograph of his deceased grandfather in the living room, stating, "That's me when I grew up," or "That was me then." Subsequently, he consistently insisted on being called Grandpa Gus, an insistence on adopting his grandfather's name at an age when a child would normally be clarifying their own name, which deeply puzzled his family. Initially, his family thought it might be a childhood fantasy or stemming from frequent family conversations where his grandfather's name was mentioned. As Gus grew a little older, reaching approximately 3 years of age, his memories became more specific and detailed. He began sharing intimate details about his grandfather's life that he could not possibly have known through normal means, as they were not openly discussed around him or even known by his immediate family. For instance, he would talk about his grandfather's childhood, mentioning that he had 2 sisters. This seemed like an inconsistency to his family because, as far as they knew, his grandfather only had one sister who reached adulthood and was alive at the time, Gus's great aunt. However, through in-depth interviews with elderly relatives, especially his great-grandmother, and the examination of old documents in family archives, according to some sources, via documents such as an old family Bible or ledger, it was revealed that his grandfather did indeed have a second sister who had passed away at 18 months old before his own birth, a forgotten piece of family history across generations, unknown to most family members, including Gus's parents. And Gus knowing this detail was considered extremely surprising. Gus also recounted specific events from his grandfather's life. Notably, during one conversation, he spoke of being hit by a car. His grandfather was indeed involved in a serious car accident in the late 1960s or early 1970s, resulting in buboes or a broken arm. He mentioned having a black car, although it is noted that he did not provide a more specific detail like make or model, only that it was black and an old model. He spoke of owning specific brand golf clubs, again without specifying the brand, but it was clear he was passionate about golf and played frequently. And he even claimed to remember having a bird that used to be in a cage, which confirmed that his grandfather indeed had a pet bird, thought to be a parakeet or canary. This detail was also corroborated by older family members. One particularly poignant memory was his mentioning the passing of his old baby. His grandfather had lost his firstborn daughter at a very young age, as an infant. This was a very painful truth for the family and rarely spoken of. When Gus spoke of this painful detail, it was a profound moment for his family and added significant credibility to his claims. It was also reported that Gus made comments about his grandfather's daily routines or preferences that were too specific for a child his age to fabricate or passively learn. For example, his grandfather's favorite food, with some sources hinting it might have been a specific Indian dish, or his fondness for a particular armchair. Although Gus did not have a distinctive birthmark or physical feature physically similar to his grandfather, It was sometimes noted that he exhibited personality traits and behavioral tendencies similar to his grandfather's calm, thoughtful, and observant character. This was both surprising and thought-provoking for his family. While there is no widespread report of Gus experiencing significant distress due to these memories, his initial insistence on his identity and perceptions, different from his peers, did concern his family. His mother, Jan Taylor, initially found these claims unsettling, even frightening. She tried to dismiss them as childhood fantasies, but Gus's unwavering consistency, the specificity of the events he remembered, and his emotional connection to these memories eventually led her to seek help. She contacted Dr. Jim Tucker, a renowned child psychiatrist and researcher at the University of Virginia, known for his work on childhood past life memories. Dr. Tucker, with a rigorous methodology, conducted extensive interviews with Gus and his family, sometimes exceeding 20 hours of in-person interviews, carefully comparing Gus's statements with verified facts about his grandfather's life. During this process, strict protocols were applied to ensure that information was not inadvertently leaked to Gus. For instance, family members were interviewed separately. Care was taken not to lead Gus when asking questions, and the ways Gus might have accessed information were meticulously examined. Dr. Tucker specifically noted that Gus never deviated from his belief that he was his grandfather and never confused himself with other family members, his mother, father, or grandmother. While other family members were initially skeptical, they eventually oscillated between surprise and belief in the face of the details Gus provided. Older relatives, such as his grandfather's surviving sister, also expressed their astonishment at the details Gus remembered, especially when a young child articulated details that had faded from their own memories. The Gus Taylor case is often cited as a striking example of reincarnation, particularly due to its intrafamilial nature and the child's self-generated, subsequently corroborated, numerous accurate details. Proponents of reincarnation view such cases as strong evidence for the survival of consciousness after death. However, as with all similar cases, skeptics offer alternative explanations. These typically include concepts such as cryptomnesia, unconscious recall of forgotten information, where Gus might have subconsciously learned some information from family stories, perhaps overheard when very young, or by looking at old family albums, even if not directly told to him. Cold reading, presenting unknown information about a person as accurate through general observations and inferences, confirmation bias, family members unconsciously emphasizing details that fit and ignoring those that don't, or coincidence. The argument is that while some details may seem uncanny, a child's imagination, combined with exposure to family mythology, however subtle or indirect, could explain these memories. Some skeptical organizations or individuals who have examined this case note that the evidence does not directly prove reincarnation and that alternative, mundane explanations are still possible, though the emergence of such lost or forgotten family details challenges the coincidence argument. Most skeptics, rather than completely dismissing the rigor of research like Dr. Tucker's, focus on the complexities of human psychology and memory. As Gus grew older, his vivid memories of his grandfather's life reportedly began to fade. This is a common pattern observed in many childhood reincarnation cases.